Our guest this week on Austin Fit Talks, very excited about Dr. Ann Shippy, a functional medicine physician. And I want to get into all the layers of what you do, but I feel like it's essential to understand your backstory before we can get into present day, because it really is fascinating. I mean, you're working at IBM and you decide to abandon this career and make a complete life change. Can you kind of walk us through that, how that came to be and how you arrived at where you are today?
Yeah, so I was a chemical engineer for IBM and was kind of on the fast track there. I was getting to lead some projects that I really love, like help get more environmentally friendly chemicals or water processes. And so it's really, really exciting. I loved it. And I went on vacation one year and got really sick afterwards, and I couldn't get the help that I needed to put my body back together. Just lots of band-aids thrown at me, so I had to do it myself with really thinking out the box and thinking about what I was eating and seeing a nutritionist, an acupuncturist, an immunologist that was doing some amazing things in naturopath. So anyway, I pieced together what I needed to do to get well. And I just got so fascinated with the human body and the amazing capacity that we have to heal from even things that aren't supposed to heal. And I woke up one morning and decided to go to medical school.
Wow.
So,
That's a big decision.
yeah.
How long before you woke up in the morning and then actually started filling out applications and really decided to go for it?
Well, it all happened pretty quickly. Like, it was such a pivotal moment for me. I was responsible. I was reporting into the plant manager, and I had responsibility for coordinating some efforts between our Florida location and North Carolina. And so I had done a loop to those places, and I came back and I sat next to this man on the airplane whose wife was in law school.
Oh, wow.
It must have gotten to me. It was just like a Dallas to Austin flight. So it's like 30 minutes.
Quick. Yeah, sure. Up and down.
Some things he said must have just opened the door, because I'm sure I had been kind of thinking about, oh my God, that would be so amazing. But some things that he said just made me really realize I wanted to do it. And within, so that was in March, I got accepted to medical school by November, December timeframe. So
Okay.
I had been out of college for quite a while.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I had never taken a biology class in college, so I had to go back and take the prerequisites for biology. So I got that done really quickly, and then I had to review the physics and organic chemistry and all of that, so I could take the MCAT.
Oh my
But it just,
gosh.
everything fell into place. It was like the skids were greased for me. And then I loved medical school. It was just such a great experience to get to learn about the human body in an even more depth way. I knew that I needed that for the foundation, because there are lots of times where I use my internal medicine allopathic background to really sort through what's going on with somebody. But then I layer on top of it the functional medicine, where I get to use the latest technology and testing to really delve deeply into people's biochemistry and physiology, down to like some how their genes are functioning, what genes they have, and how their mitochondria, the little organelles inside the cell that make energy, and what toxin levels there are, and what their nutrient levels are, and put that whole piece of all those puzzle pieces together to help people to get their bodies back.
What's amazing to me is you kind of glossed over it a little bit, but you went to medical school, you finished medical school, you become a doctor, but then even that's not enough. You decide to, alter your path once you even become a physician to end up where you are today.
Yeah. So I had a child in med school and a child in residency.
Wow.
So I knew when I was finished that I really wanted to do some additional training, but I had these two young children and needed to focus on them. So I went into standard internal medicine within a wonderful small practice here in Austin. But then a couple of years later, I got sick again. I developed a couple of autoimmune disorders, Sjogren's syndrome, which makes your eyes and mouth really dry. Like, I couldn't wear my contacts anymore. I had to chew gum all the time to have conversations. And also in my blood work, I had an autoimmune disorder that increases your risk for having a stroke.
Wow.
So I was my body was pretty worn out by that time. And so I got to learn again how even more in depth than I did, back before I went to med school about how to reverse autoimmune disorders. And then, of course, once I did that, I had found functional medicine to do that. Then I had to get back on my track and really help patients the way that I wanted to initially when I started on that journey. But my body's been my greatest teacher. Like to see how you can completely heal from many different conditions if your body has what it needs and it's not being overwhelmed. I think I can hold a different place for patients in that unknown period that you go through while you're really hoping that you can heal, to knowing that your body is healing.
I feel like you hear so much about that with people where they just say, I've been meeting with so many doctors and I can't figure out what's wrong with me. You know, no matter what I try, we're not getting the right solution. How much of that do you encounter, and how rewarding is it to actually be able to kind of walk that path with somebody and finally diagnose what is causing them so much trouble?
It's one of my greatest gifts in my life to get to do that, so that people, can really have their quality of life back and get to contribute in the way that they want to contribute. Yesterday was one of those big moments, like a patient who was severely ill for over a year, almost dying multiple times, and having her say, you saved my life. And
Wow.
I can't wait till I'm not in so much pain that I can hold my grandchildren again, was, there's nothing better than that, to really help people to get to express fully who they are and contribute the way they want to be in the world, and not to be suffering so much.
Sure. No, it must be incredibly rewarding.
And then there's another group of my patients that just are highly motivated. They want to be the best athlete they can be. They want to be the best executive they can be. They want to live to 100 and be healthy and, going on adventures for as long as they can. Or they have something in their family history that's worrisome, like, their dad had Parkinson's, or their mom died of a stroke early. So they have these little wake-up call concerns that maybe their bodies aren't as optimal as they think they are. So we get to really delve deep and fine-tune and optimize their bodies.
Well, that leads me perfectly to what I wanted to ask you, because I think a lot of our audience for Austin Fit Magazine are people who are physically active and want to lead a healthy lifestyle. How much do you see those two pieces going hand in hand, being physically fit, but also maintaining the diet and understanding your body and having that part of it working hand in hand with the actual physical activity?
Yeah, to really have the health that is optimal, it needs to be all of those things. You can't be healthy if you're not moving your body. It's just that's not a not a possibility. And then to really be eating in a way that's low inflammation and provides all the phytonutrients as well as the macronutrients that you need. So you're really getting a lot of good quality food in, and then finding out what your food supply is depleted in. Like, almost everybody I see needs to be on magnesium because our food just doesn't have the magnesium supplies. And then if you go do a lot of exercise and you don't have enough magnesium, it's going to, deplete you even more. So knowing kind of what are some of the main nutrients that support you, and then managing stress is huge. And I think that's one of the most important messages that we have right now with what we're seeing with the virus, with the pandemic, right?
Sure.
Is everybody's level of stress is higher than what their baseline stress is, which is often still pretty high, right? So it's really tipping a lot of people over into maybe not sleeping as well or feeling more anxious and those kinds of things. So learning how to manage stress optimally can really also increase your resilience.
Is there a preventative component to what you do, where I might come see you? I'm not terribly sick, but I just want to make a change, or I want to make sure that I don't get sick.
I love to do prevention because there's usually some things that we can do to really optimize your nutrients so that then your biochemistry and physiology runs well. And there's even things that we can do, like to see if you're heading towards osteoporosis, or if some of your detoxification pathways are working optimally to help you to reduce the risk for heart disease and cancer, and really detailed cholesterol panels to make sure that your arteries aren't clogging up. And unknowingly, because with a lot of these things, you don't know that condition is brewing until you're pretty far down the path. And one of the other areas I really love to work with, especially since that almost got me, was identifying early autoimmunity, where you have some little chemical messengers in your body, some antibodies that are attacking your organs and skin and other systems to start to do some damage. So usually that process is going on for years before it actually manifests in a disease.
You mentioned diet. We talked last week with Rip Esselstyn, who has the Engine 2 diet, which is all based around Plant Strong. And I think it's so interesting to see, different approaches to a healthy diet. Can you walk us through a little bit about, I should say, first of all, on your Instagram, on your website, you have recipes and pictures of meals that look so delicious.
Okay.
But can you walk us through a little bit your approach to a healthy diet?
Yeah, so I really, one of my greatest loves for myself and my family is I'm a foodie. So I love to find food that really tastes decadent.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
really good for my body. Like I had a birthday a few days ago, and my sister made this chocolate cashew cheesecake that was so delicious. You'd have no idea that it had, that it didn't have some of the inflammatory foods like dairy. So what I like to do is to take out the foods that I see cause inflammation on a day-in-and-day basis. So, we want low inflammation to get healthy, stay healthy. So for me, that's gluten for pretty much everybody, and dairy. And then also considering looking at grains for some people. So even the gluten-free grains can be inflammatory for some of us, like me.
Sure.
But I think that the thing that pretty much all of the good research on nutrition and what's a healthy diet includes is vegetables. That should be the main thing that we can all agree on, is
right.
that you need lots of vegetables to stay healthy. And then especially if you are exercising, but pretty much everybody, to be able to make chemical messengers in their body, you need a high quality protein of some kind, but not huge amounts of it. Most of us don't need as much as protein as we're eating, unless you're vegetarian. And if you are vegetarian, I think it's really important to do these big nutritional panels that I do, where we look at your amino acid status and your fatty acid status, so we know if you're in a good range for those things. And then this whole thing about fat being bad, that's one of the places that I think a lot of the good, more recent research points to is that we do need some good fats, so that we can build healthy cell membranes and keep a healthy brain and heart and neurological system. So then, there's some conversation around, well, what is a good fat?
Sure.
So I think most of us can agree that nuts and seeds have some good fat in them. Eggs have really gotten a bad rap, but I think that they are both a good source of fat and choline and protein. And then it goes from there. I think if you're eating animal proteins, then you want to get the wildest grown possible, so that it has a good fatty acid panel. And don't eat a lot of it, and don't practically burn it, because when we overcook the food, that really yummy browning that tastes so good.
Yes.
That if we do a lot of that could actually increase our risk for cancer.
You're starting to touch on it there, but obviously for athletes, protein is important. You've got to be replacing that. Do you have favorite proteins or good proteins that you like to recommend?
I do. So I like to start the day with a smoothie. So I recommend a really good pea protein for people that are trying to do more plant-based. And it also has a lot of detoxification supplementation in it. So it makes it super easy to start out the day to get a lot of those extra nutrients in with the high quality pea protein. And then we also have a grass-fed beef protein that makes into a nice smoothie.
People, sometimes might hear something like this and, oh, it's so much effort to change my diet. And, this is going to cost me more money, or it's going to take more time to prepare, or whatever it may be. What do you kind of tell people who see this almost as too challenging, too difficult to implement in my life?
Yeah, there are lots of shortcuts for this. There are some food preparation organizations here in Austin that I really like. Spirited Food Company does a great job of preparing, having a lot of vegetables and high quality proteins ready to go. They even have a paleo autoimmune panel, things like Snap Kitchen, although I'm a little irritated that they're putting more dairy in their food. So you can get it already prepared, and then you can find some shortcuts like making it takes me 5 minutes in the morning to make a smoothie. And then if I make, when I'm cooking dinner, if I make enough for lunch the next day so that I can get a high quality lunch. And sometimes if I'm really short for time, I'll make a big pot of soup or a stew that I can just live on for a few days. I'll, do some smoothies and do some soups and stews that have a lot of vegetables in them. So I think it's pretty doable. And then more and more of the restaurants here in Austin have really great options for high quality, delicious, healthy food.
Well, we have so many unhealthy restaurants in Austin, but many of which are delicious. Do you have favorite healthy spots where you like to eat in Austin?
Yeah, so Picnic is one.
Mm.
So they have the paleo options, the Thai Fresh South, a Flower Child does a great job, True Food Kitchen. So, that pretty much covers all the
Yeah.
different areas of Austin.
Our food scene here has really diversified. It's not just Tex-Mex and barbecue anymore. There's so many options.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, no, we're really becoming a great foodie city.
Yeah, and then I can't think of but there are even some of the food trucks that are doing a great job of getting some good quality food ready for us quickly and easily.
Sure. Well, you mentioned, quickly and easily and shortcuts, your program, Every Life Well. I mean, you really do spell out recipes for people if they want to become part of that. Explain a little bit how that works.
Yeah, so my website, AnnShippyMD.com, has, in the blog, we have tons of information that we're putting out every week to help to figure out some of those things. So one of the biggest things that I talk about is how environmental toxins, just little bits of exposures each day, can accumulate in the body. And that's what I see causing a lot of these chronic diseases, whether it's diabetes, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, heart disease. So many of these are associated with environmental toxicity. So we need to be taking actions to, pick a healthy deodorant, try to find a water bottle that's not made out of plastic, maybe glass that's covered in silicone, or stainless steel. So just all those kind of shortcuts and things to be available, and to make, the little changes at a time, not feel overwhelmed. You can
Sure.
do, one or two things a week, and then in a year you've made some big changes. And then we have a detox program that we're going to be launching here in the next month or two. COVID's kind of slowed us down a little bit. So we have a waiting list for doing our online program, where we really walk through a month of, okay, here's some ways that you can make the dietary changes. Here's some supplements that can really support your system to be more resilient. And then some of these lifestyle changes, like getting a healthy deodorant.
You said that, I think on your website, it says, this is not the standard cleanse that you're used to hearing, or maybe hearing people say they did a cleanse. How is yours different?
Yeah, so there's, these are more things that you can incorporate into your life to make lasting changes. So if you just do a few day juice fast, it can help a little bit, but it doesn't take you into the future. And so these are things that really help you to make the lasting changes. Like, one of the things that I find that most people need is some liposomal glutathione. So glutathione is one of the little products that we make in our body that helps us to zip out a little bit of aluminum or mercury here, a little bit of glyphosate or pesticide there. It helps us to clear those things out, but often we get depleted in it. So by raising glutathione levels, we have higher levels of antioxidants, and it helps our body to be more robust.
I feel like I need to be taking notes on all of this so I can remember it. You mentioned, the plastic water bottles. Years ago, I did an interview with the owner of ThinkSport, which I think is also an Austin company. And he talked about, the water bottle you use when you're exercising and being aware of, how that's made. And I know that's a huge part of your research is toxins in everyday life. How important is that for, people to be conscious of?
Yeah, I think it's really important. So one of the things that I get to do with some patients, if it makes sense for what they're going through and what their goals are, is actually to look at some of the levels for their plastics. And sometimes it's really elevated, and it's as simple as, just the plastic water bottle that they're grabbing when they're working out. And, even then, most of the time drinking filtered water at home or out of a glass water bottle. So, so my rule with that for myself is that, like, if I'm in an airport and I'm traveling, I'm not going to worry about it.
Right.
But every other time that I actually have access to water that's not in a plastic bottle, I'm going to figure out how to get it in glass or stainless.
Do you have?
It really does end up disrupting hormones, and as you know, for athletes, we need healthy, balanced hormone levels. And if you're shifting more towards an estrogenic level, it's going to change your performance.
Speaking of performance, do you have athletes that you've worked with who have seen noticeable performance changes by adopting some piece of your philosophy?
Absolutely, yes.
Awesome.
I love that. Like, even so, one of my patients, I didn't realize, we were kind of starting to work on other things, and she's in her mid 40s, and she started doing so well with her tennis that, went to state championship kind of level of competition. So yeah, sometimes it's just even a nice byproduct when we've gone to work on something else, and then people feel so good.
Sure.
Instead of feeling like their bodies are declining and they're getting older and not doing as well, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm rocking it.
That's awesome. So, I mean, mentioned fitness. We know you eat healthy. Do you have a fitness routine for yourself that you like to stick to?
I do. I am a huge fan of Pilates.
Okay.
I have a little bit of hypermobility, so I'm, my ligaments can get injured fairly easily if I'm not careful with weightlifting and that kind of thing. So Pilates has been a great thing for me. And then I love a technology called NewFit. So it's where
I've heard
you
of that.
put electrodes on your muscles and then do some type of movement, and you can safely build muscles again. For me, without lifting the weights or just doing gentle weights, I can get and then I also do some of the Peloton bike because I can easily fit it in my schedule. And I love to ski. If I lived on a mountain, with snow, I'd be out skiing several times a week.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I grew up in the Northwest, so I grew up skiing. And
lucky.
It's the worst thing about living in Texas is not having a lot of access to skiing.
Yeah.
It makes it hard. Well, Dr. Shippy, this has been fascinating. We really appreciate your time, and people can go to your website. Is that the best way to find out more information?
AnnShippyMD.com. So it's easy. And we are just constantly getting information that's to help you to make some health changes simply so that it's not overwhelming, and to help to motivate so that you can see like these little efforts can really add up to huge changes.
Yeah, well, not to put words in your mouth, but what I like about it is it seems like you're making changes that aren't going to completely disrupt your life, but actually fit into your life, and they're doable. It's realistic.
It is, one step at a time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Dr. Shippy, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love what you guys are doing. It's so inspiring and awesome. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And if you missed any of our Austin Fit Talks, you can catch them all on our website at austinfitmagazine.com.